Hello, my name is Blake Hatton, here again, I'm the digitization coordinator. And a couple of weeks ago, I showed you how to create a simple light box from an empty cardboard box and a shopping bag so that you could use your phone to scan your slides. Well, today I'm going to show you how to do something a little bit more involved, but just as exciting. I'm going to show you how to take your vinyl records and convert them to MP3 so you can listen to them on your computer. So I don't have a whole lot of special equipment here right now, but I do have two pieces of relatively cheap equipment that you should be able to get for a combined total of about $15, depending on where you look. So just to start off with, I'm going to move my camera here. So I have my turntable here. I have my preamp, and I have my record already on the turntable here. And I'm going to show you the two pieces really quick of equipment that you need to digitize your records. 5mm plug. This needs to go from the output of your phono preamp, which is that little black box that I showed you here, and this goes into your computer. The next piece that you might need is one of these, and this is a USB sound card. And if you are like me and your computer doesn't have a dedicated or a separated microphone and headphone input, then you're going to need one of these. And these cost about $8, and this cable here cost about $5. I got it at an office supply store, actually. So the next thing you're going to need is a piece of software called Audacity. And that is actually what I use here in the library when I'm digitizing archival sound like audio cassette tapes and reel-to-reel tape. And if you stay towards the end of this video, I'm going to tell you a secret about this technique that I'm going to show you and how you can use this technique with digitizing vinyl to digitize literally any sound, audio cassettes, 8-track, if that's your thing. I'll show you how to do that here at the end. But let's get started digitizing vinyl. So I'm going to move you again here, so that way you can see what I'm looking at. And if you look here, I'm going to take my red and white RCA jacks, and I'm going to plug those into the output of my preamp here. So I'm going to do that really quick. All right. And then I'm going to take the 3.5mm end of this here. I'm going to plug that into the microphone jack of this sound card. And you can see here there's a green and a pink. And pink is always going to be the microphone jack if you're on a PC. So I'm going to plug that into my microphone. And if you don't need one of these, if you have a dedicated microphone jack on your computer, then you don't need one of these. You can just plug this straight into that pink jack. And then I'm going to plug this USB port or jack into the port on my computer. And then we're set. All right. And then the next part you're going to have to take on faith that I am doing. But I'm going to show you, we'll show you. So, well, actually, I'm going to have to do this in Audacity. So I'll share my screen here. Awesome. So now I'm going to add software to the stream. All right, and if you look here, we now have Audacity running. And Audacity is a completely free open source program. So if you already listen to vinyl, chances are you might already have the stuff you need to digitize vinyl. It's actually really easy once you get down into it. So you're looking at the Audacity interface here. We have our stereo tracks for recording. I have everything plugged in here. And then you want to make sure here that you just have everything set up. First thing we're going to double check is we're going to make sure that our input is correct. So depending on which microphone port that you use here, you might have to, or you will have to select your device. So I'm using this USB audio microphone. So I'm going to make sure that's checked. And stereo recording channels, that's what I want. Our speaker, that's good. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit record first, and then I'm going to play the record. And the reason for that is that you want to make sure that you get every single part of the sound on your record digitized, because you can always cut off the silent parts at the beginning. You can't bring those back. So I'm just going to get my needle here over my record. I'm going to place it down. And now it's picking up sound. I'm going to give it a second here. And you can see that I have both channels picking up sound. That's what I want to see. Now you'll also see here up at the top, we have these two moving bars that are green that indicate that we're capturing sound. And there's our music being captured there. And I'm not going to go through and play the entire vinyl record. But what you want to make sure you do when you're looking at this, see, we have our bars here moving. And this level here indicates how loud the sound is. And see that it's turning red? We don't want that to happen. So we're in Audacity, we're recording, and let's say that this is happening. What's going to happen is it's going to clip, which means that your audio is going to be distorted. It's actually why electric guitars sound distorted, is because the top end of the sound wave is getting clipped off. So we're going to stop that, actually. We're going to re-record it. And what we're going to do is that there's a microphone slider right here, and that is the recording input volume. And what that just means is that adjusts how loud the computer, or how intensely the computer listens for the signal. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to slide that down, and you'll notice if we bring it all the way down here to the bottom, it gets really quiet. What we want is we want the top of our sound, or our highest volume, to be at this -6 level right here. So we're just going to slide that up a little bit until we get to that point. You might have to start and stop your record a few times. This is usually a trial run to make sure that we get our settings dialed in before we actually digitize the record. So I'm going to keep sliding that up. And I think I'm going to leave that probably about there. That's just a little bit over the 6, but it doesn't move there often. And it's actually, well, let's move it down just a little bit more here. All right, I'm happy with that. So now you'll see that we're hitting right around the 6 there. Or, no, it got really loud again. So we want to make sure that we get our loudest parts nice and within the level that our computer can handle here. So I'll leave that about there because that's where our loudest sound will be about. So that looks good to me. So once you've got your settings dialed in, I'm going to stop this here. And then I'm going to just drag a slider. You can either do it this way or you can press Control A, and that'll select the entire thing, and hit backspace, and we're clear. So I have to restart the record now because I didn't know where my settings were going to be. This keeps changing, but I want them to be about there. I don't know why that changes, but that's what we're going to do. All right, so I'm going to restart my record here, but I'm going to also hit record first. So now we're recording again. And now we are recording our vinyl again. And it's advisable to clean your records before you digitize them, whichever method you're used to. If you have one of those little plastic record cleaning sinks, that works really well. Or if you have one of those magic eraser sponges and some soapy water, then you're really careful to not get the label wet. You can clean them that way, just as long as you have a fairly clean record. But there are some limits to vinyl digitization that I will get into here. So I'm still getting some clipping issues, but I'm not going to sit here and fiddle with this because, of course, one side of an LP can take 20 minutes. So I'm not going to digitize the whole LP. But looks like we're still a little loud. For some reason, this keeps changing my recording volume. I think it's an issue with the mouse on my keyboard. I don't have this issue with my desktop. So we are going to, so we're just going to let this record for a second. So let's imagine now that we've digitized our entire vinyl record. Let's pretend that that's a 20-minute piece here, and I'm going to turn off the record player. All right. And so now we've got our record digitized. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to save it. We're going to export it. Now, Audacity will give you the option to save the project. But when Audacity asks you if you want to save the project, what it means is it's going to save it as an Audacity project rather than an MP3. So what we're going to hit or click here is export as a WAV or WAV file. And I recommend exporting as WAV because it's what's called a lossless format. And it means that it doesn't compromise your audio to make the file small. So I'm going to export as a WAV file. And it's going to load here. And let's see, so we have Audacity, and then I'm just going to call this vinyl to MP3 demo. And we're going to save this as a 32-bit float wave, which just means that this is going to, it's going to be a high quality file. And then it's going to give us our, this is called metadata. And we want to put in our artist name and our stuff like that. Since we don't have our individual tracks selected yet, we're not going to worry about that. But I'm going to say this is a Brahms record. So we are going to say artist name, Johann Brahms, I think was his name. Track title, we're not going to worry about that. Artist or album title is Symphony No. 4 in E minor. And then year, I'm not sure when this was recorded, but put in all of this information that you can put in. And what this will do is, say you were to listen to this in your favorite music playing application, then what would happen is it would allow you to sort this song or the songs by artist and album and track and stuff like that. So this is very important for you to put in. But this also just allows you to have some basic information already in when we start separating tracks. So we've got our music recorded here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click here. We're going to click right at the beginning. And we're going to hit Control B. And that puts a marker at the point that we've selected. I think if you, I'm not sure which tool it is, but it is, if you press Control B, then it will mark that segment of your vinyl or of your on-recorded sound. And so we've got our little bookmark here, and then this is where we would put in our track title. So we're just going to call this track 1. Of course, this classical symphony is much longer than what we've recorded, but we're going to call that track 1. And then we're going to find, let's just say this, let's imagine that this is the next silent spot on our record. And this is where we would select our next track. So I'll hit Control B again, and we will type track 2. And then we'll go and we'll type another one, and we will type, and then we'll hit Control B one more time, and we will type track 3. So now we have our track selected in our record. So if this were an album with multiple songs on it, like a pop album, then you would just simply put this at the beginning of each track and export it that way. So now we have our tracks labeled. We're ready to go. You'll also, so we've done that, and you'll notice we have these really high spikes here in our waveform here. That's what this blue thing is called, as a waveform, and this allows us to visualize the sound and how loud it is. And if you see all these little large spikes here, those are pops within the record. And that's one thing you have to be aware of with audio digitization or any kind of digitization, that it is a warts and all kind of thing. So if you have a really, really clean record that plays flawlessly, then you will get flawless, perfect sounding digitized sound on your computer. Now, if this album is damaged like this one I'm sure is because I got it for very cheap, it was a 99-cent album, then all those pops and hisses are going to be present in your final recorded album. That's why you want to make sure that you clean this. But we can mitigate it just a little bit here. We can click Effect, we can click Click Removal, and it will tell us to select the audio for click removal to use. So let's see, let me check that one more time what it said there. Select the audio. So we'll just hit Control A because we have clicks all over this, and we'll click Effect, and we'll click Click Removal, and now it'll tell us there. And I'll just leave it on this default, and this will be something you may have to play with a little bit. The reason that we are, so you might not like this at first, it might not sound right, but if you look here now, after we ran click removal, all those big spikes disappeared. So we are now good to go. And if that doesn't get rid of the clicks enough for you, you can increase those levels, you can play with it. And the reason we exported the entire thing as a wave in the first place is so that way we have a safe copy of our sound before we start messing with it. It's like, it's exactly what it is, making copies so that way you have something you can back it up. So we now have our clicks removed, and then something else you might want to do, depending on how noisy your record is, you might want to run something called noise removal. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a section of our audio here. So it looks like this is a good candidate, because we want to find a section that is nothing but noise. So if you have that hiss in the background, then you want to find a section where there's no music playing, and you just have the hiss. And we're going to click Effect, and we're going to click Noise Reduction, and we're going to click Get Noise Profile. And so what that's done is that's told the program, this is what our noise sounds like, and this is what I want you to take out of the rest of the audio. We're going to hit Control A again, and that'll select everything. We're going to click Effect and Noise Reduction, and we've already selected our profile for our noise. So we're just going to click OK, and it's going to take a second to reduce the noise here, and you see all that noise just went down even further. So that looks great. And so now we have our digitized vinyl ready to go. What we're going to do now is we're going to click Export, and we're going to click, because what we've done now is we've selected our tracks, we've removed the pops as best we could, and we've reduced the noise. And we're going to click Export, and click Export Multiple. And you want to use this, save this as a wave first, and then you can save this as an MP3, and this will be a smaller file that you can put on your phone or in your car if you have one of those USB stereos, anything like that. So, but I would recommend saving this as a wave first and then saving it as an MP3, because a wave is what's called a lossless format, like I said, and that will last longer on your computer. So we'll just, but for right now, since this is just a minute and a half of classical music, I'm just going to click MP3 right off the bat. Bitrate mode, preset, quality, you can select your quality standard, extreme, medium, whichever. Variable speed, it's fine. And then it says split files based on, and it says tracks or labels. And I'm going to select labels because that is how we select our tracks, that little Control B trick that I showed you. We're going to click Export. And now that information that we put in when we exported our album the first time with the artist name and the album title and everything, that's already there. So this is track number 1, and it's going to use the track labels that we used, or the track labels that we created to name them. So I have track title, track number 1. We're just going to click OK, and then we're going to have to go through and do that for each track just to make sure that we have everything looking the way we want it to. So OK, OK, and now we have our, and there it is. So we have track 1, 2, and 3 split up on our vinyl. We're good to go. That is how you digitize a vinyl record and create it to or convert it to MP3. Now, I told you I was going to tell you a secret about digitizing audio like this. You can use this technique to digitize literally any audio, because all you really need is a headphone port on whatever it is that creates the audio, or a jack. So say you have a tape cassette player and it has a little 3.5 millimeter headphone out port. You can take that headphone out and plug that directly into the microphone jack of your computer, and you can digitize your audio cassette tapes that way. You can digitize literally any form of analog audio that way. You can do 8-track, you can do reel-to-reel, you can do Fidelpack if you have a machine to play that. Any sort of analog audio you can digitize as long as you have a cable like this, or just a 3.5 millimeter out cable like this that you can plug into your computer. So thank you for watching. I hope to see you again. This was part of something I'm doing, part of the Digital Memory Lab, because I'd love to have everybody in here digitizing their stuff with the Digital Memory Lab. But unfortunately, we don't allow that right now because of the pandemic issues. So that is why I'm bringing this to you, so that way you can still digitize your stuff and preserve it for the long term. Thank you.